This is John Black, super chemist. We're going to talk about Javier Milei. He's the new president of Argentina for the last year. He's a Trump. He's actually, I call him a Trump, but he's actually a Vivek, because he wants to get rid of all the government, which is what they need to do in every country.
A year ago, this man screaming about liberty was elected president of Argentina. How has that worked out? Well, Javier Milei is a libertarian who promised to slash government spending. So, of course, reporters called him
far-right, radical.
Far-right Javier Milei.
Far-right Javier Milei.
Why far-right?
Because anyone who they don't like is far-right.
Far-right wants to ban most immigration, ban drugs, ban sex work, wants to impose tariffs. But Milei is a libertarian. He supports free trade.
Libre comercio, que vos, o sea, le vendés lo que producís a quien se te dé la gana.
He's also fine with sex work. He says gay marriage should be none of the government's business. He says people should have a right to choose their own gender. Milei mainly wants government to do less. But the media called him far-right and said his election will spell devastation.
Milei's approach to everything is to cut more government support in any way that helps people.
But the country's big government had already hurt people more than it helped.
People in Argentina are struggling with one of the highest inflation rates in the world.
Argentina is really like a warning and an example for the United States.
Ian Vasquez studies Latin America.
Argentina was one of the richest and one of the freest countries in the world, and then it started down a path of greater and greater government intrusion. It's the case study of a country that was once rich and became poor.
Yeah, it's called communism. What happens when you give all your money to the government, guess what? You become poor. And all you middle class pieces of garbage who always jumped to we need the government to fix this. Oh, we need the government to interfere here. We need the government to do this. We need the government to get that. All you're saying is, I really want the government to go down to the poor people, steal all of their money, and give it to my charity case that I like. That's all you're saying. You can't kick me down. You can't push me, the poor, down on the ground, kick me in the head and spit on me, and then go give the money, take money off of me and give it to the government so that they can help some other third party. You're not a good person, okay? You're only good if you help the person you want to help without pushing someone down and kicking me in the head.
Javier Milei has become elected president.
When Milei came into power, there was 40% poverty rate. There was annual inflation of over 200%.
The media said Milei can't fix that. He's a snake oil salesman, a TV pundit with no government experience. He'll fail, they said, like his...
You don't need government experience. See, the government is not there to help the economy. It is not there to help anyone. It's there to make sure that your constitutional rights are not violated. That's it. That's the only thing the federal government's supposed to be doing. But yet you people, let's just, for easy math, say a person makes $1,000 a month, right? That's $12,000 a year. They have to give, yes, I have to give up $3,000 a month. I mean, $3,000 a year, even though I'm only making 12. I have to give up $3,000 a year, right? First 3 months of my pay, so that 80% of it can be absorbed into the government, right? Because when you collect money and you distribute money, you need a machine to do that. You need buildings, you need people, you need banks, you need paperwork, electricity to heat and that, to distribute this money and collect it. So even when you think you're helping the poor, you're not helping me, bitch. Don't act like you're helping the poor. You are garbage, okay? If you think the government should, because even if they help the poor, how are they helping? If I have to give up $100 and all the poor people have to give up $100, and then the government, it takes 80 of that dollars to process the money that they just stole off of me and redistribute it back to the poor people, okay? So you're basically saying, hey, poor people, everyone give up $100, we'll take 80 of it, we'll put it in the middle of the floor, and we'll burn it, and then the other 20% we'll give back to the poor. How is that helping me by taking $100, burning 80 of it, and giving me 20 back? How does that help me, you pieces of garbage? You want to help me? Stop letting the government steal $3,000 or 3 months of my pay every year. That's how you help poor people. You stop stealing off of them, you middle class pieces of garbage. Just because you can afford the government to steal off of you, I can't afford them to steal off of me, you pieces of garbage. So can you please stop telling the government to steal off of me so that they can give money to help the poor? I am the fucking poor.
His predecessors had.
Many predecessors have tried and failed to turn the economy around. Javier Milei will be no exception.
But Milei is an exception. A politician who told the truth.
No hay plata. He was the first politician in generations to talk to Argentinians as though they were adults.
He explained that government has no money of its own, and whatever it spends, it takes from the people.
Yeah, the poor people, you pieces of middle class garbage that think you're helping the poor. Where do you think they get that money to help the poor? They steal it from us. Yeah, 3 months of my pay I don't get. And I don't make about 12 grand a year on average. But I lose 3 months because you want to help the poor. Really, you piece of garbage. You think you're helping by stealing $3,000 a year off of me? You're helping me. I'm the poor, you pieces of garbage. I'm the poor. Stop stealing from me. Stop telling the government to steal from me to help the poor. Okay, you don't steal off of poor people. Spend half of 80% of the money to collect and distribute that money, and then give back 20% of what you just stole from the poor to help them. How does that help, you piece of garbage, middle class garbage people?
He does pay a lot of attention to libertarians from around the world.
Ministerio de las Mujeres y Género y Diversidad, afuera.
In the United States, politicians who promise cuts rarely win votes, but Milei won by a landslide. The media then eagerly covered union protests against him. Thousands.
Just like they're doing right now with Trump. They've got all these people. What's funny is these people are protesting for the government to screw over everyone. Like, they can't see that the government being so giant, like having people on welfare that are poor is one thing. You only give them a little bit of money. These government people in the United States and Argentina, they make hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, each and every last one of them. That's welfare. When you have all your country working for the government and all on welfare making 100 grand a year, what do you think's going to happen to the country, you idiots? Well, maybe the same thing it's happening in America.
Are attending demonstrations opposing his drastic cuts to public spending.
Cuts by the libertarian government plunged the region into a financial crisis.
There was no way to avoid that because of the mess that the previous governments had left. The question is, what's the best way out? And Milei has said from the very beginning, the best path out is through freedom.
Milei's big cuts worked. And now a few in the media even admit that.
And what he's been able to achieve in a very short time ought to be inspiring.
At first, this analyst trashed Milei.
He has no experience and he does not have an economic team.
See, this is what I'm talking about. If your government has an economic team, okay, what that economic team does is destroy our economy. They manipulate the economy so that they can make money off of manipulating the economy, just like the Federal Reserve Bank. You know, the Federal Reserve Bank is literally, I'm not saying it's like or it's similar to, it literally is a loan sharking machine.
So he's going to fail.
But 8 months later, he acknowledged
His radical plan to save Argentina's economy seems to be working.
A lot of the
Wow, who would have thought if you have a government that stops stealing off of all the people in their country, that all the people in the country would start becoming more rich and not poor? Who would have thunk it? Wow, stop stealing off of people. Stop letting the government steal off of everybody, and everyone won't be poor. And they're all surprised, like they don't, wow, this worked? Really? You mean if the government just stops stealing non-stop off of its citizens, the citizens will become more rich and not be poor as garbage like they are when the government steals off of everybody? And they're all amazed? They're amazed. Really?
international press in the last month has come out and said, we've got to take this guy seriously. This stuff is working.
Now, those changes have led to a budget surplus, the first in 15 years.
Inflation is down. The economy started to recover in the second part of last year, way before what most people expected. Milei is showing that his libertarian policies are working.
What does libertarian policy mean?
Milei got rid of 9 ministries. He cut government spending by 30%.
He fired thousands of government workers and cut handouts.
He has slashed energy and transport subsidies, government spending on things like pensions.
His deregulation ministry shut down 200 government offices.
2 deregulations per day since he's been in office.
See, they have all these regulations so that you can't do anything. Just like the rent, the housing. We can't get housing, we can't get this, we can't, because they won't let anyone make and build any houses. Because there's all this regulation. So the regulation is so much that it's not even worth building a new house, because you got to pay all this money to get permits and all this and that and that. Even though there's stupid regulations. Why do they do that? Because they don't want you to build more housing. See, if you have 10 houses, you have 10 people, right? Then that's perfect. But if you have 10 houses and you have 20 people, that's what they want. They don't want there to be enough houses for people, because it's supply and demand. If there's not enough houses, then they can charge whatever they want, because if you don't pay, the next guy will. There's more people than housing. That's why they love it like that. That's why they have rent controls in New York, because they know if they have rent controls, no one will build new houses. And without new houses, the supply and demand will always be, you have more people than you have apartments.
Sometimes the results were good immediately.
Yeah.
Rent control in Argentina had created a shortage of apartments.
Yeah.
When Milei lifted rent controls, the supply of apartments in Argentina tripled, and the price fell by about half.
Yeah.
Libertarians keep saying that if you get rid of the price controls, the supply goes up, and that reduces price.
See, that's the whole problem. They don't let us build things, okay? Because they regulate them into the ground, so no one wants to build anything or make anything.
Milei really does understand free market economics.
Argentina still has big problems, although inflation is a fraction of what it was. It's still high. There's lots of poverty. And Argentina's tariffs make consumer goods expensive. This $800 iPhone costs almost $3,000 there.
Oh, wow. And you'll have someone in Argentina saying, this is just so crazy. I don't want to pay $3,000 for a phone, an iPhone. You know what? The entire country, everything went down in price. So that you know what I mean? Your $1,000 a month is now like $2,000 a month, right? I would rather have that and have to buy a cheap phone instead of a $3,000 iPhone, right? I don't want to pay I would rather pay double for everything else, as long as I don't have to pay $3,000 for an iPhone. Just don't buy the iPhone. Get a cheap another phone that is an iPhone, you idiot. And then it's like they'd rather have their country be a dump and have lower prices, even though they're all dead poor. They'd rather have that than be rich, right? And have the money to buy everything. Prices are low, except for a couple things are high. It's like they're idiots.
Argentina still has a long way to go, and that's why Milei recently said that what's coming is the deep chainsaw.
Meaning much less government. What if we could have that in America?
Basically, we're on a path to bankruptcy.
Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency want to make Milei-style cuts in the United States.
We have to cut government spending, or we're just going to go bankrupt, just like a person would.
And Musk watched what Milei did.
He's making all the right moves.
Ministerio de Turismo y Deporte.
Look at this, Department of Sports and Tourism? That's probably like 1/10 of their budget. Why do they have a government, the Department for Sports and Tourism? Why? What is that needing for? What is that millions and millions of dollars they give to that department? Why? The federal government is there to help you keep your constitutional rights, not sports and tourism. That doesn't even make sense.
Milei has showed that cuts are possible. And as Milei cut government, he actually gained popularity. Freedom can work. If only